Good morning, Britain. A defiant Rishi Sunak says he is up for the fight over controversial plans to detain and deport nearly all migrants who arrive in the small boats. The Prime Minister insists he is confident that the government will win any legal battles over its new law.
In fact, he has staked his premiership on his promise to stop the boats, and he says this tough new bill is the way to do it, even if others describe it as illegal, immoral and impractical.
Well, we will speak to the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, live after 8 o'clock this morning, a day after she admitted the legislation was likely to be in breach of human rights law.
In other news, the RMT union cancels a series of rail strikes after receiving a new offer. And this is raising hopes of a breakthrough in the long-running dispute.
A public apology from Buckingham Palace to the charity boss at the heart of December's race row. Ngozi Fulani joins us to explain how the incident has completely changed her life, to the point where she often feels unable to go out in public.
And how's this for weight loss? Former Liverpool defender Neil Razor Ruddock has shed 7 stone after a gastric sleeve surgery. And he credits Towie's James Argent as his inspiration for doing that. We're going to speak to both of them about Neil's remarkable transformation just a bit later on in the show.
And this morning, the Friends star Courtney Cox on why she is backing British actress Andrea Riseborough for Oscar success this Sunday.
I had no idea she was English. And then I met her and I went, oh, God, you're even better than I thought you were. Yeah, she's incredible.
A mixture of rain, sleet and snow through southern areas of the UK today. Further north is sunny spells and wintry showers. I'll have all the details of the warnings and more coming up on Good Morning Britain.
Wednesday, 8th of March, 2023. Live from Television Centre in London. This is Good Morning Britain, with Susanna, Reid and Richard Madeley.
Very good morning to you. It's just after 6 o'clock. Well, yesterday we pointed out that the one person we needed on the programme to explain the detail of the legislation on stopping the small boats was the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman.
We actually invited her on the show live, didn't we? We said,
yep,
come on.
Live on the show yesterday, and 24 hours later we can let you know that, yes, the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, will be here this morning to explain in detail what the government is going to do. And I think there are probably 2 schools of thought on this. Either you think, finally, as the Home Secretary says in the Mail today, the British people have had enough of migrants pouring over the Channel, and it is your top priority. Or you might think like Gary Lineker, who in fact is on the front of the Daily Mail this morning, thinks that the government has just gone too far.
Well, his actual quote is, this was yesterday, and there are calls for him now to be sacked by the BBC for saying this, that they say he's crossed the line. He says that this is an immeasurably cruel policy directed, and this is the bit that's got him into trouble, at the most vulnerable people in language that is not dissimilar to that used by Germany in the 1930s. So he's making a direct comparison with what Suella Braverman said yesterday in the Commons and Nazi Germany in the 1930s. And there are those who think that that is, for the usually outspoken Lineker, that's too much, and he needs to go. So we'll be talking about that. We'll actually ask the Home Secretary what she thinks about it.
Yeah,
as well.
and perhaps there is then a middle ground where you may have an issue with illegal migration, but you might also think that it is compassionate and humane and within our obligations under human rights legislation set up in the wake of the Second World War, in order to look after people who were displaced because of the actions of their government. You might think that actually it's really important to deal with people in a sympathetic way. And you might have an issue with the language. that the Home Secretary has used. Now,
it is. I mean, she's written an article for the Daily Mail this morning, hasn't she?
Well, I was going to say, in the Commons yesterday, she talked about 100 million people displaced around the world and coming here. She's gone further in the Daily Mail this morning. She says likely billions more eager to come here, if possible.
It's mathematically impossible. Billions, really? We'll ask her about that as well. I think language is very much currently at the heart of this whole debate, and the use of language. What Lineker said, the way that the Home Secretary is talking. To say billions, it's inflammatory, isn't it? So we need to talk to her about that.
Let us know what you think. What language would you use to describe the problem?
Careful.
Yeah. So do let us know on that, because the Conservatives tell us that, and the government tell us that this is one of the issues, in fact, the main issue that people talk about on the doorsteps. Is it your main issue? Do you think this is a problem? Do you think that the government is doing the right thing or the wrong thing? Let us know this morning. You can get in touch with us on Twitter or Facebook or by email, and we will read your comments and put the main points to the Home Secretary and, of course, the Shadow Home Secretary as well. Yvette Cooper is here because, of course, the polls still showing, of course, that, you know, Labour on current standing likely to win at the next general election. So we need to know if they also consider it equally important and what they would do about it. It is our main news this morning, because the United Nations has expressed profound concern over proposed government legislation to stop small boats crossing the Channel, which it says amounts to an asylum ban in the United Kingdom. Yeah, Rishi Sunak is going to be facing MPs a bit later on for the first time over plans to stop people claiming asylum in the UK if they arrive illegally. Well, our political correspondent, Louisa James, as you've seen, is in Westminster. Louisa, this isn't the first time that the government has announced plans to crack down on migrant boat crossings. Labour, as we'll hear later, is describing the plans as a con. And the big question this morning is, whatever you think of them, will they work? Can they actually be put into operation? What's your reading of it? Could they succeed?
Well,